I never thought I'd be abandoned by my own flesh and blood. I never imagined the man she chose would strip me bare in my darkest hour, and that she'd stand by and watch. But what they didn't know was that life held one final card for me to play, and when I played it, everything changed. Get ready, because what you're about to hear isn't just a story. It's a reckoning. Comment below where you're watching from. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. My name is Evelyn. My name is Evelyn. I'm 58 years old. Until recently, I believed in something called unconditional love. Especially within a family. My life revolved around my husband, Robert, and our daughter, Sophia. Every meal, every holiday, every saved dollar was for them. When Robert passed from cancer last year, the ground vanished beneath my feet. But I told myself I still had Sophia. I still had my girl. I sold the house Robert and I built in Willow Creek, just outside Portland. Too many memories. Too many nights expecting his voice calling from the den. Sophia and her husband, Marcus, offered me a place to stay. Or at least, Sophia did. Marcus barely glanced up from his tablet when I arrived. I tried not to make waves. Kept to the small room off the kitchen. Cooked, cleaned, ran errands. Trying to be helpful. Trying to stay invisible, but Marcus. He had a way of making me feel like an intruder. His eyes held a constant flicker of annoyance, like I was gum on his shoe. It started small. He'd sigh loudly if I asked a question. Change the music mid-song. Once, I heard him mutter burden under his breath as he passed me. I tried to believe I misheard. Deep down, I knew I hadn't. Sophia said nothing. I'd look to her for support, for a single word. But she always smoothed it over. He's under pressure, she'd say. Work is intense. I swallowed the shame. Stayed quiet. That's what mothers do. Right? But that night shattered me. We were at dinner. I'd made lasagna, his favorite. Sophia scrolled her phone. Marcus sipped wine. The silence was thick. Then, out of nowhere, he looked up. You know, maybe it's time we stop pretending this is temporary. We're not a shelter. Sophia froze. I stared at him. What do you mean? He smirked. How long is this supposed to last? You're not working. Not contributing. We've got plans. Bills. We didn't sign up for an extra person. My breath caught. Heart pounding. I turned to Sophia. Desperate. Sophia. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Maybe it's best, she mumbled, if you find something more stable. For everyone's sake. Everyone's sake. I didn't scream. Didn't argue. Stood up. Walked to my room. Packed 2 suitcases. That's all I had left of my life. I didn't cry while packing. The tears came later, standing outside their building, the wind slicing through my coat. Nowhere to go. Sophia didn't walk me out. Marcus didn't pretend. I sat on the curb for an hour. Phone dead. Heart too. This is what it feels like to be erased. That night, I checked into a motel, Wallpaper peeling. Vending machine humming. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. How could everything turn so cold? What had I done? Next morning, I texted Sophia, "I understand. Love you always." No reply. A week later, another. Then another. Birthdays. Little updates. Silence. 3 months passed. Each day longer than the last. I applied for jobs. Anything. No one wanted a grieving widow in her late 50s with no recent work history. Cleaning. Babysitting. My body didn't move like it used to. The loneliness suffocated. Worse, the shame. I'd given everything to that girl. How could she turn her back? One evening, going through a box of old keepsakes, I found it. My mother's journal. I hadn't read it in decades. Something pulled me. Sat on the motel bed. Turned the pages, ordinary stuff. Weather. Grocery prices. Church, then. The entry. June, he came again today. Said he wished things were different. That he wished I could be his wife. But he has a family. A reputation. A name to protect. Evelyn must never know. She must never know. I pray one day she understands how much I loved her, even if she was born from longing and secrecy. I read it twice. 3 times. She must never know. Flipped further. Hints. Meetings. Small cash payments she needed but tried to refuse. She never named him fully. Only initials. AC, another entry, February. He said he'd made arrangements. If anything happened to him, he'd ensure Evelyn had something. A part of what he built. Won't be official, of course. Too dangerous. But he promised. A trust. A letter. He said his lawyer, Mr. Harrison, would know. Harrison. I'd seen that name. 2 days of online searches at the motel's shared computer. Found him. Benjamin Harrison. Retired estate lawyer. Still listed with a private firm in Seattle. I didn't call. Hands trembled. Sent a handwritten letter. Explained who I was. Who my mother was. Begged for a conversation. 2 weeks later, a call. His voice cracked when I mentioned my mother's name. He knew her. Personally, I always wondered if you'd reach out, he said. There's something you need to see. Took a bus to Seattle next morning. Suitcase half packed, expecting a scam. But walking into that quiet office, filled with old books and silence, I knew it was real. He handed me a sealed envelope. Yellowed. Fragile. From Arthur Callahan. Founder of Callahan Technologies. A giant in Pacific Northwest tech. A man with a family. A legacy. The letter was addressed to my daughter, Evelyn Grace. I couldn't read it all at once. Cried before the second paragraph. He admitted everything. The affair. The regret. The silent love. Then the promise, in the event of my death, I have insured a portion of my personal assets, untraceable through my estate, are delivered to you via Mr. Harrison. You are my blood. Though I was too much a coward to claim you in life, I claim you now in death. Mr. Harrison slid a folder across the table. Bank accounts. A modest investment portfolio. Ownership papers. Titles. Total value, a little over $1 million. I stared. This is real? He nodded. Yours. Always was. My heart thundered. Not because of the money. Because, for the first time, I felt chosen. Seen. I didn't scream. Didn't laugh. Just sat there, quiet as a whisper. Truth washing over me like rain after a long drought. That night, in the motel room, I didn't sleep. Stared at the ceiling. Smiled. They thought they discarded me. Thought I was done. They had no idea. I wasn't broken. I was just getting started. I didn't rush back to Portland. Something shifted. I wasn't just Evelyn, the forgotten mother. I was someone new. Someone lied to her entire life, finally seeing truth. Stayed in Seattle a few more days. Walking. Sipping coffee in silence. Watching people. I didn't envy them. I studied them. Wondered who masked heartache. Who'd been betrayed. Who'd clawed back from invisibility. Benjamin Harrison gave me more than money. He gave me time. Time to process. To understand what I held. It wasn't just wealth. It was power. Grief had become fuel. Back in Portland, I didn't return to the motel. Booked a sleek short-term rental downtown. Dressed differently. Polished. Deliberate. Learned the language of business. Watched videos. Read contracts. I would never be powerless again. Then I found it. Buried on a real estate auction site. A small apartment building. East Portland. A little rundown, but sound. The exact complex where Sophia and Marcus lived, listed as distressed. Owner defaulting. Auction in 2 weeks. I didn't hesitate. With Mr. Harrison's help, I created an LLC. An anonymous shell. Grayson Holdings. Filed the paperwork. Transferred funds. Placed the bid. I wasn't planning revenge. Not exactly. But I was taking control of the place they thought they ruled. The auction came. I won. Quietly. Legally. Under the radar, I owned the building where they kicked me out. Where they humiliated me. Where Marcus called me a burden. Sitting at my desk, looking at the deed, I whispered, "Let's see how Marcus likes paying rent to the burden." A month later, notification letters went out. Rents reassessed. Lease terms reviewed. For Marcus and Sophia. The new amount was triple. Not double. Triple. Market value plus overdue fees. He must have exploded. I could feel the rage. It wasn't about money. It was about pride. Marcus needed control. I'd pulled the rug out silently. Sophia tried to call 2 days later. First time since I left. I let it go to voicemail. "Mom? I don't know if you heard. Something weird's happening. Our rent just skyrocketed." Marcus is furious. I don't know. Can we talk? I didn't respond. This wasn't vengeance. It was gravity. They needed to feel the weight of their choice. I drove by once, late. Their lights were on. Shadows moving. Sophia pacing. Marcus yelling. I watched for a minute. Drove away. Part of me felt hollow. Part vindicated. Part still hurt like hell. Because even now, knowing what I knew, holding what I held, I'd have given anything to be invited back into my daughter's heart, but I knew that wasn't possible. Not yet. So I stayed silent. I waited, because sometimes the loudest justice is the one that doesn't say a word. And I wasn't finished yet. I didn't realize how much I'd changed until I saw Sophia at the grocery store 3 weeks later. She didn't see me. 2 aisles over. She looked exhausted. Worn down. Hair sloppily tied back. Her cart half empty. Cheap staples. Rice. Eggs. I should have walked away. I didn't. Followed at a distance, she paused by a small box of pasta. Looked at her phone. Probably a text from Marcus. Her shoulders sank. She put the box back. That moment broke me. Not because I pitied her. Because I remembered the little girl who ran to me crying over a scraped knee. Who asked me to check for monsters. Now she lived with one. I drove home. Sat in silence for hours. Stared out the window. Life had twisted us into strangers. But this wasn't punishment. It was consequence. Long overdue. I had plans now. A quiet chess match. Every move calculated. With the LLC in place, I started repairs. Small ones. Leaks. Broken locks. Flickering lights. Marcus never noticed. Too busy yelling emails at the property manager. He wouldn't move. That would be defeat. Sophia would follow. I changed the property signage. Installed a security camera near the lobby. Updated mailboxes. All under Grayson Holdings. No one knew. Then came the notice. Annual inspections. Mandatory. Marcus sent a furious response. Threats. Self-righteous anger. I smiled. He was unraveling. Meanwhile, I became someone new. Hair styled sharper. Clothes purposeful. Joined small business meetups under a pseudonym. Learned real estate. Built connections. They saw a quiet, composed woman with sharp eyes and cash. The best disguise is the truth you don't say. One morning, I passed Sophia and Marcus in the parking lot after a tenant meeting. Sunglasses on. Hair sleek. Documents in hand. Sophia barely glanced. Marcus didn't recognize me at all. Later, sipping tea, I thought how strange it felt. To walk past your own child and be invisible. Not because you're weak. Because you're stronger than they remember. They only knew the woman they controlled. That woman was gone. Sophia's calls continued. Hesitant voicemails. Hi, Mom. Just wanted to see if maybe you had time to talk. I know things have been Complicated. I didn't return them. Not from cruelty. She needed to feel the void she created. When doubt crept in, I opened my mother's journal. Read, Evelyn must never know. But I did know. And it was armor. I was no longer the woman begging for shelter. I was the woman who owned the roof. I believed revenge was balance. Justice without fire. Correction, not war, but seeing Marcus's email after the rent increase. Satisfaction flickered. Subject, rent increase. This is unacceptable. Mistake. Tripling rent. Extortion. Demand to speak to the owner. We've lived here 3 years. Never late. This is robbery. Marcus D. Thorne. I read it. Forwarded it to my property manager. Respond using Clause C. Market adjustments. No exceptions. Next week, I authorized upgrades. New paint. Hallway lighting. Landscaping. Marcus's rent-funded improvements for other tenants. Irony. He just couldn't see it. He left angry notes under the office door. Water pressure sucks. Trash piling up. Paying for this? Joke. Every note unanswered, Sophia stopped leaving messages. Started texting. Short. Hey. Can we talk? I really need you. Then silence. I watched the bank statements. Grayson Holdings was stable. Profitable. Other tenants paid on time. Only Marcus made noise. Sophia caught in the storm. Things shifted with the quarterly report. Photos of their unit. Bathroom mildew. Cracked kitchen tiles. Mail piling up. Cutting corners. Living lean. I should have felt pity. I felt clarity. This was about power. Marcus was losing it. Word was he took extra hours. Sophia seen crying on the back steps. Unraveling from the inside. I didn't have to say a word. For so long, I was the one begging to be heard. Begging Sophia to see Marcus. To see herself. Now they choked on silence. I watched from above. My new apartment overlooked their courtyard. Different building. Higher floor. Safer neighborhood. A view they couldn't afford. I didn't watch often. Just enough to remember. I wasn't crazy. The betrayal was real. Consequences deserved, yet. Some nights, I sat by the window. Held my phone. Stared at Sophia's last text. I really need you, the mother ached. The woman I'd become knew this was only the beginning, Marcus. Heartbreak isn't always loud. Slamming doors. Shouted words. Real heartbreak is quiet. A voicemail unanswered. A message unread. Silence between you and someone who once called you mommy. Sophia's call stopped. Text slowed. But the damage grew. Building staff reported tension turned to open hostility. Marcus snapped at everyone. Refused maintenance. Demanded unnecessary inspections. Looking for someone to blame. Sophia looked exhausted. Haunted, I didn't rejoice. This was about watching my daughter stay in a cage and call it love. One afternoon, a report after a noise complaint. Neighbor heard shouting. Losing control. This is all your fault. Marcus stormed out. Didn't return until morning. Sophia stayed inside. Lights off. Curtains closed. I waited. Not for Marcus. For her, 2 long days later. Sun dipping behind trees. My building intercom buzzed. Hi. This is Sophia Thorne. I was wondering if Evelyn, my mom, lives here. My heart stopped. Didn't answer right away. Watched the screen. Frozen. Slowly pressed the door release. 10 minutes later. A soft knock opened the door. She stood there. A shadow of the girl I raised. Pale. Makeup smudged. Shirt wrinkled. Looked decades older. We stared. Neither spoke. Finally, she breathed. Hi, Mom. Stepped aside. She walked in slowly. Unsure if allowed. Silent except for teacups clinking. Handed her tea. Sat down. Waited. I don't know where to start, she whispered. I said nothing. Looked down. Marcus. He's not easy. Angry all the time. Blames the rent. Blames me. Blames the neighbor's cat. Still silent. I thought I was doing right. Asking you to leave. Asked. Like you had a choice. Just wanted peace. Didn't want conflict.